In this video, I pick back up with my market analysis for the spec books for WandaVision. After episode 7, everything is going crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, we're going to take a look back at the WandaVision spec books and see what's going on in the market, because I'm sure you guys are well aware after episode 7, we had some crazy reveals, and instantaneously overnight, certain spec books that were relating to the events that occurred in that episode have gone absolutely bonkers. So I'm going to go over the numbers with you guys, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. But before I go into the numbers and the spec books, if you guys could drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying my content. Love interacting with you guys, and let's keep this conversation going. All right, with that being said, for those who don't know, a few weeks back, I did some videos that were analyzing spec books for WandaVision as they related to the show. So I made a video that was like before we had the show come out, where I kind of took a look at the market and identified certain spec books that I thought were interesting as they went into the show. And then 2 weeks after the show, I kind of did an update video, and we kind of talked about some of the growth that had occurred with some of those spec books. Well, here we are now 7 weeks into the show, because we just got episode 7 as of the time of recording this, time of the recording of this video, just last Friday. And there were certain things that occurred in that episode that absolutely blew up the market. Namely, spoilers, in case you haven't seen it yet, spoilers, we did get the big reveal that Catherine Hahn's character is in fact Agatha Harkness, and Captain Monica Rambeau got superpowers, or at least they established that she now has superpowers. So in this video, I want to take a look at those two books, Fantastic Four number 94 and Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16, and just kind of show you guys like what happened with some of these numbers once we got these reveals. And then after we talk about the numbers, I want to talk about kind of where I see the comic book industry and sort of like how, this new Disney Plus era is going to affect the market, and just sort of have that conversation with you guys, because I think that we are going into uncharted territory from here on out, and we'll dig into that later in the video. But for now, let's get into the numbers, and then I'll start to give you my thoughts at the very end. So let me just pull this up here for you guys in case you were not aware. Catherine Hahn, great actress, she plays this character, and for up until this moment, she has been referred to as Agnes. Now, a lot of people thought for a long time that she was going to be Agatha Harkness, the character who is in the Marvel Universe. You see her right here. She's an old witch character, and that was the popular speculation for a long time, that she was going to be playing this character. But there was never an official reveal that she was in fact Agatha Harkness until last week's episode. So she did in fact call herself Agatha Harkness, and once that occurred, the book with her first appearance, which is Fantastic Four number 94, absolutely exploded into the market. And so this is something that's really interesting to look at the numbers, and so I'm going to pull those up for you guys. And then also, of course, Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16, this is the first appearance of Monica Rambeau, but in the episode that we got last week, they did in fact allude to the fact that she now has superpowers. So this book also took a jump. So this is really interesting. All right, so let me pull up the numbers here. And if you guys recall, I in my previous video, I'll put a link in the annotation or the description if you guys want to go back and check that out. I kind of did this value tracking where I looked at specifically Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16, and also Astonishing X-Men number 6, the first full appearance of Sword. And I did the value tracking, and we took a look at it throughout the weeks to see like what was the growth of the book. Well, in this one, I'm gonna specifically go over Fantastic Four 94, and then I'm also going to just kind of give an update for Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16. But let's start with Fantastic Four number 94, and let me center this here so that I can make it very clear for all you guys as you watch this. So Fantastic Four 94, of course, I showed you guys the cover. This is the first appearance of Agatha Harkness, who was revealed right here. This character is played by Catherine Hahn. That was in the last episode. So I went back on eBay, and this is purely based off of, napkin math, eBay sales, and things like that. I'm not some math guru, right? So I'm just doing, the work myself. And I went back to basically all of the sales of Fantastic Four 94 that occurred before the show premiered, right? So I was looking at, the weeks leading up to the show, everything that, I could get my hands on as far as the data that was on eBay. And I just scrolled through all the way through and looked and just wrote down every single raw book that has been sold. This is just for the raw values. We're not talking CGC numbers here because those numbers, it's harder to track those because if you don't have a consistent CGC grade number being sold, it's hard to sort of follow the market. So I wanted a bigger sample size, so I went with raw books. And again, I just went through all the listings and calculated them up. And as we can see here, this was from before the show premiered. The average raw sale for this book was $58 and the median raw sale for it was $80. So that was kind of where the book was hovering 1 week before the show. Then 1 week after the show, we'll call this 1 week after. 1 week after the show, you see the raw average sale of the book became $73.77, which is a 21% increase in the value of the book, and the median value sprang up to $85. So you see a 21% increase. Great increase. Obviously, people excited about the book, wanting to get their hands on it. People seeing Catherine Hahn playing this character known as Agnes. A lot of speculation going on. But let's flash forward now. Here we are, 7 weeks after. 7 weeks after, we get episode 7 here, right? And the average raw value of this book goes to $183.20. The median raw now $225. That is an increase of 148%. I mean, that is absolutely insane ROI if you were someone who had bought this book, before the show occurred. And once you got that reveal, this thing absolutely exploded. I saw certain raw books being sold for $400, like ones that were claiming to be near mint. And this is not even talking about what the CGC values are. I mean, granted, this is an older book, a Silver Age book, hard to find a near mint, but $400 for a raw for this book, that is absolutely crazy. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact of how did they do her reveal? Just to dig into the, spoilers of the show, I mean, they really set up a huge scene and a huge moment for her where they had the big reveal. Then they did sort of like the Munsters homage where they lay the foundation of why she was, how she set up everything. So there was a lot of excitement, I think, with how they brought her into, the existence of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this in name, specifically Agatha Harkness. And for that reason, you can tell, I think the FOMO really hit people really hard. So everyone jumped on this book in a big way. And, that's something that's really crazy. And, we're going to have to talk a little bit more about this at the end of the video. But before I dig more into that, let's just show you guys really quickly Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16. And just to give a refresher here, where we kind of saw this book growing, 1 week before it had a 75% increase. During the 1 week after, only an 4% increase. And then actually there was a correction, a 20% and a 14% correction after the show had been out for 2 weeks. But here we are now in episode 7. And as you can see, the numbers have been updated. So I was value tracking a CGC 9.6. And at the time of, the last time I had checked back in, it was at a high of 400 and then it corrected back to 320. Now we see in this last week a CGC 9.6 being sold for $470. That is a 68% increase on the value. This is completely bonkers. And just to put it in perspective, before the show actually even started, if you were to get this back in Disney Investor Day, this CGC 9.6 would have been selling for $150. Think about that. It's gone from 150 from before Disney Investor Day all the way to 470 now 7 weeks after. So that is basically a 3x, a 4x return on the money just for the CGC 9.6. There hasn't been enough data on the 9.8, or I haven't been able to follow that on eBay. So I don't know what the current 9.8 sale is, but a 9.6 in this book, 3x on your money, 4x on your money. I mean, that is bananas to me. That is absolutely bananas. And, that's only over the course of 2 months maybe, because that Disney Investor Day was in December and here we are in February. So in 2 months, you got 4x of your money. I mean, just think about that for a second. All right. And then let's just take a look at the median raws. The median raw value here now is $150. This is in comparison to what it was before at 96 and a high of 111. So, we're talking about a 64% increase on the median raw value of this. And to compare it again to what it was before Disney Investor Day. We're talking $40 here. So we went from 40 all the way to 150. And again, that's, a 3x, 4x return on your money. And that's really, really crazy to me because, once we already knew that Monica Rambeau was going to be a part of the show. She was in the trailers. She was in name. They were calling her Monica Rambeau. And people knew about this, but nobody was really, or people were jumping on the book, but nobody was, the numbers weren't where they are now. And I think that they've taken that jump because in the last episode, they established that Monica Rambeau has these superpowers. And that's something that's really, really exciting for people. And, it looks like we're going to get Monica Rambeau, the superhero version from here on out. And I think that that's why people are now, FOMO jumping on this book. And that's something that's overall is really funny to me because in the previous video, my takeaway to you guys was, hey, like after the trailers, there's still time to jump on a book. And once the show is out, a week after the show, that's the end of the road. Don't jump on the book anymore. That was my analysis and my takeaway. But what I'm seeing here is that now that we're in episode 7 and there's been so much growth over the course of the season, who's to say really when is the wrong time to jump on a book? It's almost impossible to know. And like catching the bottom is something that is going to be a hard thing to do because the ceiling is ever expanding with this new market. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys about as we kind of dive into what's going on now with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'm going to do a video tomorrow, actually, that talks about, I've done some videos previously that talked about Marvel trading cards and sort of the speculative market. And I'm trying to really think about this and talk about it in like sort of a big kind of way, which is, for the last year, we've been in this pandemic, right? Where people have been really bored. Maybe they have some excess income because they're not going out and they've been speccing on these books. And there's been a lot of conversation that the comic book market has been blowing up because of the speculation and people are super bored. And eventually, this thing's all going to go back to normal once like the world goes back to normal. But I kind of feel like we're really moving into uncharted territory now. I think that we are starting to truly feel the effects of the success of Infinity War and Endgame that came out in 2018 and 2019. And think about this. Think of all the YouTube channels within the comic book content community like mine that have started in the last 3 years, right? Like the Comic Toms of the world and the Reggie Collects, like they started their channels 3 years ago, I believe, like 2017. And with the excitement of Infinity War and Endgame, there's been an explosion of this type of, market and this type of content. And additionally, now we're in this place where the MCU has cemented itself as something that is going to carry on for at least the next 5 years, right? Like this is 100% going to be a successful enterprise going on for the next 5 years. And there's like, it's created this kind of speculative market where there are people who are chasing these books as they relate to this universe. And from before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even go back to phase 2, like even the comic book market during phase 2 wasn't what it is right now. Like this idea of thinking about, oh, this superhero might come or this supervillain might come and I'll get this book because this is speccing on this. Like that, even as recently as 4 years ago, that wasn't the same as it is now. And with these Disney Plus shows and having, week to week content like we get with WandaVision, and then we're going to get it from Falcon and Winter Soldier and then Loki, like having this kind of like market that is alive, this content that is continuing to fuel this sort of like speculative market. Like I don't know what's going to happen with these numbers is basically what I'm getting at. Like, I have a feeling we are going into a new like uncharted waters when it comes to the comic book collecting hobby. And additionally, this is why we're starting to feel these trickle overs to these comic book cards and things like that. This market is only in its infancy, in my opinion, of like these ridiculous numbers that we're starting to see and the explosion and the FOMO and the the hunting of these books that relate to the properties and things like that. So I don't know. It's a really interesting thing to see. And also additionally, I don't see the MCU creatively like everything they do builds off of each other, right? Every movie, every TV show is building off of what they're laying the foundation for. Additionally, I think that Kevin Feige isn't thinking about characters like doing one-offs anymore. I think he's thinking about this like, how do we keep this thing going for 10, 15, 20, 30 years? And for that reason, these books that relate to, say, Monica Rambeau or Agatha Harkness or whatever, like they will continue to be alive in terms of the market as far as people hunting them and chasing them. Because this is my prediction now. I don't think that Agatha Harkness is going to die at the end of this season, right? I think that she's going to be a character that persists for many, many, many years to come. And for that reason, like even with this book being valued where it is right now and people really, really excited about it, I don't see this book necessarily tanking a year from now, because I think that they're going to utilize her in other shows later on down the line or other movies later on down the line. And I think that this market is alive and it's going to continue to like have these kind of spikes. And that's something that's, for better or for worse, I really do think that that's kind of the world that we live in now. Anyways, I just wanted to share with you guys some of the numbers for the books. It's really, really crazy, like how much these things have gone up. And it's a really interesting space that we're kind of living in with the comic book collecting market. And I don't know where it's going to go. I mean, let me know what you guys think. I feel like at least for the next 5 years, this like crazy explosion that's sort of happened in the comic book market I think we're only just starting. And as there continues to be speculation and money behind this market, I think it's going to continue to go up. Anyways, that is all I have for this video. Let me know what you guys think. Drop me a like, comment, or subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.